This is the story of this unique painting called Characters at Cheltenham, Gold Cup Week, 1950. The artist was a man called Walden West. This painting was brought into the Cashel Palace Hotel on the 3rd of September 1980. And at that time, the Cashel Palace was owned by the late Dr. Vincent O'Brien, world-famous racehorse trainer. The painting was bought by a man called Charles St. George, who was a patron of Dr. O'Brien at that time. What happened was, when the painting was brought into the house, the courier who brought in the painting, and when it was unwrapped, they told us that the key plate got lost. He had a blueprint of the characters, and he said, "You better write this out," he said, "because I've got to bring this back to England." And as we look at the painting, we can see the great Cleeve Hill in the background, which overlooks Cheltenham Racecourse. The first man there was a man called Sir Peter Payne Galway, who was a senior steward of the Turf Club in the UK in 1950. He's looking straight down at the other stewards, down at the end of the line, a man called Sir Herbert Blagrave and his wife, Lady Anne Blagrave, who were both senior stewards of the Turf Club in 1950. The small little man with the red coat, a man called Phil Bull. Now, Phil Bull was quite famous because he was the man who devised time for him. Now, the next man on the left was Winston Churchill. Churchill is the man with the cigar in his mouth. And the lady in the green coat is Lady Spencer Churchill. Now, the man that's taking the paper out of Lady Spencer Churchill's coat is a man called Harry Ragg. He was quite a famous racehorse trainer. Now, the man that's next to him with the paper down along his side and with a cigarette in his mouth is Keith Piggott. That's Lester Piggott's father. The woman looking in over the man with the sheepskin coat was a woman called Anne, the Duchess of Westminster. And she had quite a famous racehorse called Arkle. The man with the sheepskin coat was a man called Frenchy Nicholson, and they used to call him the Duke because he always wore a sheepskin coat. Now, I knew his son because his son used to come into the house, and he stayed in the house, and he'd look up at the painting and he'd say, "Yes, Dennis, you can tell everybody that was my father." Now, the woman with the white hat at the other side is the present Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth. But she wasn't the Queen then, she was Princess Elizabeth then, because this is the year 1950. The next man is another famous racehorse trainer, a man called Cecil Boyd Rochford. And then behind that man is a man called Ian Balding, whose father is the father of Ian Balding and Toby Balding, the late Toby Balding. Now, the woman with her back to us with the sheepskin coat is a woman called Dorothy Paget. And she had quite a lot of good racehorses at that time. She was a famous society lady then at that time as well. And her husband, beside her, the dapper-looking man with his arms folded and a rosette in his lapel, is a man called Sir Noel Wallace. And he was a famous racehorse trainer as well. Quite a lot of racehorses, good winners he trained and good horses he trained. Now, the jockey is a man called Charlie Smirk. Now, Charlie Smirk was quite a great jockey then at that time, and that's his wife beside him there. The man behind the jockey is a man called Dan O'Brien. That's Dr. Vincent O'Brien's father. And he's the man with the binoculars, the late Dr. O'Brien's father. He's the man with the binoculars behind the jockey. The three priests are not actually priests at all. First man on the left is J.P. Dunleavy. The small little man that's in the middle is the late great Barry Fitzgerald. If you remember a movie called The Quiet Man made in the west of Ireland in the 50s as well, and he played the character of Micheline in the movie. And his brother is Arthur Shields. He's there on the right-hand side of him. And his brother played the part of the priest. But they love racing and horses as well. And the man behind him with the turban, a man called Prince Monalulu, But Prince Honolulu was a tipster. He was a famous tipster on the race courses in the UK in the 50s and 60s. And he used to shout out, "I've got a horse, I've got a horse." And the reason why he said that is because people would come up to him and say, "What horse have you got?" And he'd tell him. And 9 times out of 10, the horse would win. The big tall man at the back was a man called Pat Gray. Now, Pat Gray was the son of the Prince of Wales. The man, his father abdicated from the throne and married Wallis Simpson. And he married that woman there, Annie Gray. And they had one daughter who married the late Dr. Paddy Stokes from Feddart, who was a senior steward in Ireland here on the race courses. And then we have a woman called Gráinne Casanova. Then, of course, we have Sir Herbert Blagrave and his wife, Lady Anne Blagrave. Now, the winner of the Gold Cup and the Champion Hurl were both trained by Vincent O'Brien, the late Vincent O'Brien at that time, and a horse called Hatton's Grace and Cottage Rake. Jockey was Aubrey Brabazon. If you look at the Prince of Wales, son of the Prince of Wales, you're looking down into the priest's paper. The priest has been listening to the most important people in the middle, and they've got, he's got the winner, he passes on to my man, my woman hitches up her skirt, tries to distract everybody by showing off her leg, and the winner of the race is going down to the back of her stocking. So 3 people backed the winner of the race that particular week, the 2 races, the son of the Prince of Wales, Mrs. Casanova and Barry Fitzgerald. Walden West painted these characters out of his mind's eye, but he befriended all those people in his life, or he knew all those people in his life. There's one man I didn't talk about, and he is the police officer. Now, the police officer is actually Walden West because he painted himself into the picture. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the story of this unique painting, Characters at Cheltenham, Gold Cup Week 1950.